Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 185. Welcome. It's a beautiful day here in the state of Utah and in the area of the Great Salt Lake City. Today, we're going to talk about vocal types for men and women and why it's critical for you to know yours. All right, how's everybody doing? I just want you to know that last Friday, our area set the record for the highest, for the earliest time of the season for us to hit 100 degrees, triple digits. We hit 100 degrees in my state, well, in the Salt Lake City area, on June the, what was it? Today's what, the 9, 8, 7, 6, like 6th or 5th. Last Friday. And so, what did we do? The following yesterday, we set the new record for the lowest high temperature. We got up to 54 degrees on Monday. So welcome to springtime in the Rockies. It's crazy. Well, I want to welcome you. I missed last week. Jake Lewis, hi, nice to have you here. Zena, hello, nice to see you. Alan Serban, hi, nice to have you here. I am doing well, Jake. Thanks for asking. 3 months ago, my mom came out to visit my family and I. She's from St. Joseph, Missouri, and that's where I grew up. And she's 87 years old. She flew out. And about 3 days after she arrived, we had all of this happening with the coronavirus. And so she couldn't fly home. She couldn't fly home she was here 3 months. Finally, I said to her, Mom, she had to get home. She had to do some things. We loved having her here. We had a great time. But she didn't want to sit on the flights started up, but they're all, you have to wear a mask for 2 hours and mask through the airport. It just was so much of a hassle for her. She didn't want to do it. So I drove her home last week, my wife and I, and we spent the week. I hadn't been home for a couple of years, visited all my siblings and some nieces and nephews, and we just had a great time. My father's been deceased now for a couple of years. He was 94 when he passed away. And so we had a great time last week. But I didn't do a broadcast last week. And several asked about it. And thank you for even noticing that I wasn't doing a broadcast. It may have been the first or second time in the last 185. But I did pick up a little frog in my throat. And I don't know whether it's, I don't know what it is. Change of weather. It was very humid back there, and hot and humid. And then I got out here, and by the end of my trip, we got back late Friday night. By the time I got here, it was cold and rainy. So anyway, that's my story for this last week. I'm happy to be back and happy to be talking to you about some really important things. Hi, nice to see you. Still going strong past 30-day challenge already. No sign of getting bored. Awesome. I did not. I had 4 weeks under my belt. I invited you guys to join me a week and a half, 2 weeks into my practice. So I had 4 weeks straight, and then I didn't practice last week. Nobody wants to hear me practice. And so I've got to get back into the cell and start up again. And that's life, isn't it? Things come up. So if you have some time off, then jump back in and get started. So those of you who haven't started, join me. Join the daily practice. Angela, hi. And let me see. Zena says, I waited for you for the broadcast and I remembered that you mentioned your trip. Yeah, okay. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. First of all, yes or no, do you know your vocal type? If I say Vocal type, what are you thinking? Well, I'm a soprano, or oh, I'm a bass. That's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about your vocal classification, the range of your voice and so forth. I'm talking about a vocal type. So do you know your vocal type? I'll get into the details in a second. Yes or no? Yes, you know them? No, you don't. Kind of in context of what I teach, right? So here's why is knowing your vocal type critical? It's critical because so many of us today, and I did this 20 years ago too. I was learning on my own. I was learning on my own without a teacher, okay? I had a teacher for about 6, 7, 8 months with this technique. She introduced me to it. But then she left town, and I was only listening to cassette tapes. We didn't even have, I think, internet was just getting going at that time. And so I was learning on my own. I'd jump in the car and turn on Seth Riggs' cassette tapes, singing for the Stars. And so I would do the exercises, but essentially I didn't have a teacher. I wasn't able to, work with anybody. And for about 2.5 years, I was learning on my own. Many of us today, with all of the resources we have online, are learning how to sing on your own, learning on your own. And so this makes knowing your vocal type critical. So I'm going to explain more about that in a second. You'll understand why it's critical and how it really makes a difference to know and understand your vocal type. Okay, several of you do know your vocal type. Awesome. Pekka says, yes, flip falsetto. Okay. Alan, yep. Angela, I know my vocal type, but I'd guessed wrong at first. Alan says, pull chest, high larynx. Zena says, pull chest, high larynx. MK, baritone. Your comment leads me to make this comment. I define vocal type not as a vocal classification. In other words, what's your range, or are you soprano, alto, tenor, bass, baritone, coloratura, The vocal type that I'm talking about describes how you sing from your low voice to your high voice, what happens in that transition. The vocal type describes what you tend to do when you sing through the passaggio, the bridge of your voice. Hi, Tamatha. Nice to see you. Yes, you helped me learn my vocal larynx. Good to see you. Glad your mom as well was able to quarantine with you and your family. Yeah, thanks, Tamatha. I was back in your neck of the woods, just south, and thought about you. With all the stuff going on, thought about you a lot. Jake Lewis, I'm not sure about my vocal type. In terms of classification, I'm a high tenor, like Michael. Okay, let's talk about, okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'll give you a little bit of an outline here. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about 4 vocal types. I'm going to talk about what are these vocal types, why they're important, and how you can find out yours, and hopefully why this all is going to make a difference for you in your voice. And I'll tell you how you can find out your vocal type if you don't already know it. Many of you already know your vocal type. But let's kind of dig into it a little bit more, because it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Tamatha, I'm so glad to see you. Thanks for being here today. Okay, I admit that even well into what I thought I was understanding about this vocal technique, I really didn't understand my vocal type. My vocal type is also pulled chest, high larynx. And so, and interestingly enough, the majority of us do have this vocal type. Now, so let me dig into each of one of these vocal types right now, and then we'll talk about more about why it's important. So if it's and look, vocal classification is good to know, especially if you're going into a choir and they want to know what your part is. What's your part? What's your, are you a tenor? Are you a baritone? Are you a bass? Are you first alto, second alto? Are you a high soprano, a second soprano, or mezzo soprano? Those things are good to know, especially if you're in a choir. Generally speaking, it's good to know it's good to know what your classification is, so you have an idea of where you bridge, where your passaggio is located. Now, I didn't know, this is going to sound crazy. I didn't know until about 2000, about 5 years ago. Probably 4 years ago, in 2000 and, what are we talking about? What is it, 2020? No, 2016, 15, probably about 6 years ago now. Is that right? About 2014, 2015-ish, I was working with Mr. Seth Riggs. He was listening to my voice, and he said to me, I think you need to bridge where the true basses bridge, the basso. He said, I think you're a basso cantata, which means I'm a bass with tenor notes. And that changed where my voice wants to transition, where my first passaggio is. It's good to know that about your voice. Now, was I in big trouble because I'd been bridging where the tenors and baritones bridged? No, not really. But a lot of neat things have happened as a result of coming to know that I should do bass bridges. Tamatha, thanks. So I'm going to refer to Tamatha Lene. She and I've worked together, and Tamatha, I don't know how you're feeling about it, but when we started working together, I felt like Tamatha's voice wasn't bridging where the soprano typically bridged, but where a contralto would bridge, which is where the tenor and baritone bridges. And I feel like that helped me understand your voice, Tamatha. And so there are cases, in the case of Tamatha, and like she's a contralto, and me as a true bass, we tend to bridge one tritone below where the sopranos and the tenors and baritones, respectively, where they bridge. So it's not going to, but it's good to know where you should be bridging, because it's better to get in a little bit earlier. Hey Joe, nice to see you here. Second alto here. Yeah. From our conversations, Joe, it sounds like you are a contralto. Angelique says, if singing mix is ideal, then as you work on your voice, can the voice not change from, let's say, full chest high larynx to a mixed voice? Ah, Angelique. Angelique is letting the cat out of the bag. The answer is yes, and I'm going to go into detail on that. Yeah, thanks, Tamatha. It's really nice to understand where our voices are ideal, where the voice kind of flourishes, and just by knowing where we bridge, that's helpful. But I'm going to people who are absolute mix. I mean, in other words, they're not pulling the chest, the larynx isn't elevated, or they're not too breathy, or they're not flipping or cracking or whatever. Very few people are, when they come to me at least, are in that pure mix category. Now, that's not to say that they're not mixing, but they might be mixing, but the larynx is still high. I'm a little frustrated by my voice today. Anyway, let's talk now in detail about what pulled chest high larynx is. Whether you're contralto or whether you're coloratura, whether you're a high tenor or basso profundo. Pulled chest high larynx is going to be the same principle. And that is, as you approach your bridge, this is what happens. We pull the chest voice too high, and the larynx goes up. If I am a flip falsetto, I flip into falsetto. Or I maybe am always in falsetto. I've not met a guy that's a falsetto, straight falsetto, but I have worked with female singers who come in and take the vocal test, and it's they're not even in chest. It's just falsetto. So let's flip falsetto. Number 3, or see, light chest, no chest. Did I say light chest, no chest? Data. No data. All right, it looks like I'm back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I'm not sure where this broke, but I've reestablished connection here. For some reason, the internet gods disconnected. Light chest, no chest. It's characterized by the vocal folds, the vocal cords not adducting, not coming together firmly enough so that the result is there's too much air escaping, and the result is the voice has very little chest voice to none, and it's quite breathy. And the result is sometimes people say, well, I am a very bad breather. I run out of air all the time, and I give them a vocal test, and I hear that the vocal folds aren't coming together. And so it's just under-contracted. There's not enough contraction in the vocal cords, and so the voice is out of balance. Way too much air passing through the vocal folds, not enough of contraction of the muscle. So that's the light chest, no chest. Were you able to, you guys, yeah, Angela says light chest, no chest here. Did you hear my explanation of flip falsetto, or did I cut out? Let me just touch that one more time. So the flip falsetto voice, strictly speaking, that's how it works. They just, a flip falsetto just lets go. They don't even pull up the chest. They just flip into falsetto. Or they're always in falsetto. That would primarily be a female voice. I haven't met any guys that are always in falsetto. Now, mix. The mix is the combination of, well, it's the blend of chest and head through the bridge. And again, these are all descriptions of what happens when you go through the bridge. So I'm able to go right through there, and as I do, the head and chest mix together without the larynx coming up, without reaching upwards, or without going breathy suddenly, or without flipping or breaking into falsetto or cracking and so forth. So that's your mix. Those are the 4 vocal types. Now, do we all have some combination of these vocal types? Well, in many instances, in some instances, that's true. Maybe somebody's mixing like this. I didn't break. I didn't go too light. But even though I was able to mix through there, through the bridge, my larynx came up and I pulled too much chest. So if you get my drift, there's always one vocal type that's predominant, okay? You may have elements of all of these. You might mix a little bit, you might pull a little bit, you might go too breathy a little bit, or flip or crack or whatever. But one of them is the dominant vocal type. Usually it's pulled chest, high larynx. Now, it's not infrequent that if someone has a light chest, no chest vocal type, and they get their vocal cords to begin to adduct appropriately from bottom to top and back down again. All right, the stream is up. Oh, I now have an excellent connection again. I am sorry. I don't know what's going on with the internet. I'll try to be aware of when it does something funny. All right, so let me backtrack just a second. Let me take some comments. Anybody have any questions? Again, I apologize for the condition of my voice. It's like I have something on it. Okay. Roxana, hello, Roxana. I do all of them. Depends on my mood. Are some types better? I think it's because when we're younger, the feeling that we get is if we could just stretch a little bit, we'll get those notes. So we start doing this, and it seems like it helps, and because we get another note or another note and a half or something. So I think it's because many of us default to that in order to hit a high note. I think that's the main reason. That's just kind of the quickest, easiest default. I think the next easiest default is just to go light. Because that's probably the most prevalent thing that I see. Now, this might throw you for a loop here, but many people who think they're flip falsetto are actually pulled chest, high larynx. And that's because the high larynx, as the larynx comes up, the voice tends to flip. And so then they think, oh, well, I'm a flip falsetto. But what is the cause of the flip? What is the cause of the break? Generally speaking, in most instances that I see, the cause of a flip or the cause of a break is the high larynx. So if I said, now I just flipped into falsetto, but I had to because I sent the larynx up to try and help me get through the bridge, and it cracked and it broke. So this is a subtlety that I don't expect my students to really get at first, but it's helpful to know that most of the time the flip or the break or the crack is caused by a high larynx. Let me contrast that now with just a falsetto, flip into falsetto. Did you notice that all I did was flip? I didn't take the chest voice too high, and I didn't drive the larynx higher. I just flipped in the falsetto. That's really a true flip falsetto, and some people have learned to do that for a number of reasons. Okay, a couple other comments here. Let me see. So Roxana says, depends on my mood. Sometimes, are some of the types better and more healthy than others? Roxana, 3 of these represent physical function that is not ideal. It's not ideal for me to raise the larynx. That's not ideal. It's not ideal to pull the chest voice too high. It's not. I'm going to limit myself if I'm just breaking the falsetto. Well, okay, I'm back. Again, apologize for the internet. So we're talking about, I mentioned the question, are some of the vocal types better? The ideal is mix. It's strong, it's powerful, it could be extremely versatile. I don't have to worry about cracks, I don't have to worry about breaks. I can mix up, it goes right into my head voice. So I don't change anything, it just goes into my head voice. And I can do it from loud to soft, soft to loud. So people think it's falsetto. It's my head voice. But it blends back down in the chest. I don't have to crack or break going in the chest. So mix is the ideal. That's what I teach people how to do. We're trying to get from pull chest, high larynx to mix. We're trying to get from light chest, no chest to mix. Now, it's possible for a light chest, no chest to mix, but the mix is, if there's very little chest voice, then what are you mixing? You're mixing an under adducted vocal cords. So the vocal cords aren't coming together firmly, and now you're trying to mix. That's just not going to work. You'll just have a very light, breathy mix, which is not going to help you. If I flip in the falsetto and sing in falsetto all my life, then I'm not using the muscle in the vocal cord. And after a period of years doing that, I start getting a wobble. Because the muscle is no longer functioning. And so the falsetto only gets you in trouble over time. So you're limited. If that's the only way you can sing high notes is with falsetto, you have a limitation in your voice. Whereas mix, there's no limitation to your voice. It's extremely powerful. So the answer is yeah. There are some, the ideal is to mix. And it could lead you to do so much wonderful things, so many wonderful things with your voice. Anyone can. Someone asked me here. Let me see. Let me back up here. Just getting a couple of these things answered. Two Chucks. Hi, nice to have you here. Joe says, I'm pretty sure I'm anything but mix. I don't know how you do it. Is there any reason why most of us have pulled chest, high larynx? Yeah, I think it's because that's what we kind of default into when we're just doing it on our own. Can everybody learn how to sing? Antonio, there are a few, I think, basic qualifications to learn how to sing. You have to be able to match the pitch with your voice. if I have someone that comes into my studio and I ask them to sing this pitch or do this, ah, but they sing, ah, it's hard. We have to be able to match the pitch. Now, can people learn how to match the pitch? They can do a whole lot better with a lot of work. But it's a lot of work, and it takes months and years so far that I've seen. It can get much better, but life is so much easier for the individual who can match the pitch. In other words, ah, 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 ah. If we can do that, I think anybody can learn how to sing. Okay, your voice seems as usual. Okay, well, thanks. It just feels weird. Jake says, is it okay if I sing high notes in mix, but with choosing to pulling chest so I can belt through my range, like Chester Bennington? Well, Chester Bennington pulls his chest voice in much of the music that I've heard him sing. Now, he started studying with Seth Riggs for a period of time. I don't know how long he did it, but I've heard Seth talk to him, or I've heard Seth mention him, and basically had to negotiate with him to try and get him to abuse only half the time, because he just sang so abusively that, and Seth couldn't convince him, or he couldn't get him to stop abusing his voice all the time. So he was tried to negotiate with him to get him to abuse less. But no, you can sing extremely powerful with mix. You don't have to pull the chest voice. It takes longer to get powerful, slightly longer, because you've got to develop that mix area of your voice. But so some people don't want to take the time to do it, and then they will often have problems in the future because the pulled up chest, high larynx, the pulling the chest, the hard belt, kind of the yelling, will eventually cause nodules, hemorrhages, surgery on the voice, as in the case of like Adele, for example. Will you post some singing covers in the future? Antonio, on my YouTube channel, Power to Sing, go to the playlists and look under there. I think it says something like me singing songs or something like that. And there's 3 or 4 or 5 that I've done over the years and put in there just for fun. Usually 1 take, maybe 2. So they're not auto-tuned or anything like that. Pika says, sure, Chuck, I can also be high larynx. I'm already doing a lot better in the exercises. Awesome. Angela, I find myself flipping in the falsetto during some of my exercises, especially on the ah and the na. The more open vowels are more difficult. And so if we find ourselves doing that, it's probably because the larynx is coming up, or there's a little bit of a pulled chest. So you kind of have to revisit. We have to revisit how the exercises are being done. Usually it's because, and the vowel might be, so if I need personally to narrow my vowel slightly from ah to or na to n, I find that it's easier for me not to flip or crack or break. Antonio, why people dismiss Seth Riggs when he was a teacher of Michael Jackson? Isn't this already good proof? I sure think so, Antonio. The argument could be, well, Michael was always good. But if someone of Michael's caliber trusts someone else with their voice, and then that says a lot. Seth will say something like, well, I have had 120 Grammy awards, or my students have won 120 Grammys, so there must be something to what I'm doing. Ken Tamplin, if you've heard of him, says that speech level singing doesn't work. But that sounds just dumb. Yeah, I guess if you would say Michael Jackson was not a very good singer, or Josh Groban, or Natalie Cole, or Barbra Streisand, or hundreds of other singers. Yeah. So Angela, we're always trying to refine and improve. All right, so we've talked a little bit about what these vocal types are. Why is this important? Let me ask you, does it help you to know what you tend to do when you go through the bridge of your voice? The whole idea behind the vocal type is the first bridge. And so by dealing with the first bridge, you begin to understand what you tend to do when you sing from chest to head voice. Things become more clear. You suddenly start to realize that why you may be challenged, why you may be having a difficulty. You see, for me, my voice was a complete mystery. I didn't understand anything about my voice. I didn't know why I struggled. In fact, I thought that the bridge was the top of my voice, that I couldn't go any further. So when I hit the E, I stopped. I wouldn't go any further because I thought that was the top of my voice. So just by learning that, well, there's a bridge, and your vocal type describes how you go through the bridge, I began to, it cleared up a lot of mystery to me. Now, this is also important because many of us are learning online. And so what do you do when you go online? You start looking at different teachers, okay? And you find an exercise you think is really cool, and so you do that. But is that exercise helping you counteract what you tend to do when you go through the bridge? Is that exercise, let's say you're light chest, no chest, but the exercise you like is breathy and light. Is that going to help you create a new and improved muscle memory? Is it going to help you to get more contraction of the cord structure, more muscle involved, a more firm adduction of the vocal fold? If you know your vocal type and you know your light chest, no chest, then you know that you need exercises to bring the vocal cords together more firmly. And that's what the exercises that I give do for you. If your vocal type is light chest, no chest, then the exercises for you are going to help you stop doing things, stop doing muscle memory that's counterproductive, and start doing the thing that's going to create positive muscle memory to get the vocal cords to come together. Those are the exercises that you want initially. Same thing with flip falsetto. Same thing with the pull chest high larynx. The exercises that you need, if that's your vocal type, flip or pull chest high larynx, is to keep the larynx down, so that the vibration moves freely up and down, and it's not, you're not preventing that by raising the larynx too high or pulling the weight of the bottom. So the other thing is, the exercises help the vocal folds adjust through that middle, through that bridge, which is the reason why the first exercise you get is that exercise, or that exercise is doing a whole bunch of things to create a new muscle memory that vocal cords are adjusting appropriately. and the larynx is staying down. And so right away, the exercises are starting to help counteract what isn't working and replacing it with muscle memory that does work. You see, if we get the physical function right, the sound is going to follow. So I'm not giving you exercises to create a certain sound. I'm not chasing this. I don't want to chase sound. I want to get the vocal fold working correctly or appropriately. I want to get the larynx functioning appropriately. We want the not only do we want the vocal cords to come together firmly, we want them to adjust appropriately. And so all of the exercises that you get are primarily helping those two things. And so the exercises are going to create a new positive muscle memory and replace the old with new and better way to do it. And then all of a sudden, we stop flipping, we stop cracking, we stop pulling, we start mixing through the bridge. We don't know it at first. We don't realize what we're doing, but that's what we're doing. We're building that mix. Now let's say you are mixed. Say your vocal type is mixed. The exercises are to challenge and improve your mix. And so that's what the mix exercises do. So that's why it's important for a lot of us self-learners online to be able to know what you need and go find that. Now, I'm not speaking for other teachers online. In my approach, I provide the assessment. You can find out what your vocal type is, and then I give you the exercises for your vocal type. And it's wonderful what happens. Somebody this week wrote to me and says, I can't believe it. This is working. I started doing the exercises for the vocal type, and all of a sudden I could do it without cracking. This is amazing. Well, it's because I'm addressing the mechanical, physical function of like keeping the larynx down. And when that happens, a bunch of other good things start happening. All right, a couple comments. Angela says, same, I didn't understand about my voice. I had thought that my range was minuscule. The exercises have helped me get a hold of lower notes better. It's been a challenge, but I've seen some progress. Awesome, Angela. Blind POG, hi. Hello, Chuck. I'm 19-year-old baritone. I've been doing your exercises, but I still find my voice going weak on higher chest, head voice notes when I try to sing on medium forte, mezzo forte volume. Yeah, without hearing what you're doing, blind POG, it's hard for me to address specifics, but at first, it might be harder for you to do the higher notes, but it doesn't mean that's a finished sound. You just want to keep working it. If you're doing them correctly, they'll get stronger and more firm. Here's the other thing. Many times we get into our head voice, especially us guys. That's true with girls too, especially if they've been pulling their chest. But we'll get into our head voice and it just doesn't feel right. It feels weak and it feels like it sounds weak. But then someone's, listen, I remember doing this. One time I had a recorder and I sat down and I put, this is 20 back in 1997, 98 maybe. I thought that it was sounding too light, too airy, too breathy, or that like there was a big change between the bottom and the top notes. And so I sang, and I recorded it. And I played it back, and I was shocked. I couldn't hear any difference. I thought there was like this big change in my voice. What people hear on the outside isn't necessarily what we're hearing inside. It's much stronger to people than we think. That's another possibility too. Blind Pog. Roxanne said, this is so helpful. Thanks, Roxanne. Howard Lund, I'm glad to see this direct sending for the first time. Greetings from Norway. Hi, great to have you here today, Howard. And it's, I guess it's pretty late your time, huh? Thanks for staying up tonight. All right, so it takes the vocal type takes the mystery out of your voice. It helps you understand it. You begin to realize, oh, it's like it's kind of a muscular functioning thing. It's, if I can fix that, then everything, and then other good things start to happen. You know, it just, for me, it just made such a huge difference. The exercises help remove bad and replace it with good muscle memory. And you actually start progressing quite quickly. It's pretty exciting. So how can you find out your vocal type? To make this easy, I've made a PDF that I put in the description below this video, this YouTube video. And that PDF it says free PDF, get your vocal type. And there are links to the test, to the vocal test. There are links to videos that talk about, so you take a test, then you get then you email it and you get your vocal type. Then it will take you to links to the videos about your vocal type. I've got 3 videos about each vocal type. I show you how to do the exercises, and then I give you a place you can download the exercises for free. So you can just get the PDF and discover your vocal type, and then it leads you into all these discoveries about your voice. It helps you understand, well, you know, for me, like I said, I thought I was the top of my voice. I wasn't. I was the beginning of the bridge. I picked up another octave. It's mind-blowing. It blew my mind the first time I said, when I did that the first time, I thought, what was that? I knew I didn't break. I knew I didn't yell or strain. And the sound went up into my head, and it was like, what just happened? That was the first time I ever experienced that. Well, all of a sudden things start to make sense to you, and that's just a huge benefit, especially when you're learning online. When you don't have necessarily have an opportunity to work with a teacher directly. It's a great benefit. This kind of unfolds everything to your understanding. Then you begin to realize it's just a physical thing that you can fix, you can correct. Now, like anything else, it's muscle memory. So you have to, it takes a while to forget old muscle memory and implement new muscle memory. It's really not too much different than learning how to play tennis or learning to swing a baseball bat and hit it, or to field a baseball, or any physical thing. Learning how, let's say you want to go to the gym and you want to get abs. Well, you're not going to get them the first week. You're training, you're developing new muscle through new muscle memory. And if you don't do the exercises right, that's going to slow you down. Of course, in some instances, abs is not all about the exercise, but it's about the kitchen and what you eat there and don't eat. But anyway, any physical skill usually takes some time. Did you just jump on a bicycle and start riding? And even then, maybe you weren't very fast. Maybe you were a slow rider. Who knows? So it's just like learning anything physical. Okay, so we've got the 4 vocal types: full chest, high larynx, like light chest, no chest, flip, falsetto, and mix. We've talked about knowing and understanding these and what they are helps you, takes the mystery out of, learning about your voice. It helps you replace bad habits with new muscle memory that gives you good habits, that produces, fixes your voice. You start making progress quickly. And you can find out, you can get your vocal type, just download that PDF in the description below, get your vocal type. And it contains links to videos about your vocal type. You can go in to learn more about it, learn the exercises, I show you how, and then download free ones. Okay, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. And I'll take some answers, some questions here, and then I have a student coming in 6 minutes. Mohammed, hi. Nice to have you here today. Hey, Chuck, I want to ask you what I am some days, ask you that I am able some days to sing a B4 and my voice will be great, and some days I can't even go to the F sharp 4. And I need to perform almost 5 days a week. So how can I control this matter? Mohammed, I have to answer you specifically, I would have to hear you. I'm going to guess that you may be pulling your chest voice and the larynx might be coming up and it catches up with you, so that you can get through a couple nights, a couple days of that, but then the third day, no, it's just not there. You start losing your upper notes when you pull or when the larynx comes up. And you lose your lower notes too, interestingly enough. You can't hit the bottom ones. The other thing, Mohammed, is that we're humans. We're not like the guitar. You just get it out of the, out of the closet and start, tune it, and then you play it, and it's ready to go. No, we have to get enough sleep. We have to get enough. We have to take care of our bodies. We can't drink certain substances. We can't inhale smoke through our vocal cords and expect them to be healthy all the time. We take certain medications because we're ill. It's going to dry our voices out. It's going to dry the vocal cords out. That's going to be different. If you're a female, a female singer on a monthly basis during the menstruation cycle, her whole body starts to swell, including the vocal cords. And that changes how things feel and how the voice vocalizes. So, guys, we should be thankful that we don't have to endure that. If you didn't get enough sleep, you're going to wake up scratchy. If the place where you live is a desert like I live, it's much different than in the humidity in the Midwest, where my voice was just naturally moisturized all the time by the air. So all these different things. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you get sick. These things. I think someone said, I think it was Renee Fleming said something like, there's about 2 days a year that she's at optimal vocally. She's optimum. Her voice is optimum, like 2 times a year. But when you got a job, Mohammed, you've really got to, you start to realize that how you do things will affect the next day and the next day. So your technique has got to be spot on, or you get on Broadway and you lose your voice. I had a student who went on she was on a cruise performing on a 6-month or a 5-month, 4-month contract, and she thought she was going to have to go home early because she lost her voice. She was losing her voice. She was so stressed she was going to be fired because she couldn't sing her high notes. So she started doing it in falsetto. Now, they just got back from a cruise. They had to cut it short because of the coronavirus. But that didn't happen this time because she's been working on mixing, and it made a difference for her. And so when you get into the pro levels, You've got to keep honing your technique, or you get in trouble, and plenty of pros do. Halvard, sorry. Thank you. Love your PDFs and focused warm-up. I've never found out if I am a baritone or tenor, but I plan to take singing lessons. 10:50 in Norway. Okay. Oh, it's still light. Oh, that's right. Yeah, so you've got year-round, pretty soon, year-round daylight, I guess, Albert. Is it true that the voice is almost like a flute with a first and a second range of falsetto? Albert, I've not heard that, but there is a bridge in our voices about every tritone. And so I have 3 bridges that I sing in, that I can vocalize in. I have a 4th bridge too, but I never can get there. And the ladies too. Hey Jimmy, nice to have you here. What are the benefits of the lip rolls? Okay, I've got to run, you guys, because I've got a student that's might even be here right now. The lip roll does a number of things. First of all, and back down again without cracking, flipping, or breaking, or without strain or stress. That's two really strong benefits. It helps the vocal cords make their adjustment. It allows the resonance to shift from chest through the bridge into head voice, back down again. Keeps the larynx down, and you don't pull. You don't pull the weight of chest voice higher. And that's just a few of the things. It's also a great warm-up. It gets your voice ready to go. I've got to run, you guys. Thanks so much. Sorry I can't finish everyone's question here, but yeah, tritones on about bridges in every tritone. Thanks. Love you all, and I will. I look forward to seeing you next time. This is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 185. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. See you inside the next video. Thanks.